The man who seeks after pleasure will find the same disappointment. He will indulge in every desire, thinking that if he can just experience enough he will finally be satisfied. He will chase after entertainment, after lust, after comfort, but every pleasure will fade. The excitement will turn to emptiness. The things that once thrilled him will become dull. And so he will go looking for more and more and more, only to find himself exhausted, drained, and enslaved to his own desires. The approval of man is no different. How many have built their lives upon the opinions of others, hoping that if they are admired, respected, and loved, they will find peace? But people are fickle. They will praise you one day and condemn you the next. They will lift you up when it serves them, and cast you aside when they no longer have use for you. To seek fulfillment in the approval of men is to build a house on shifting sand. But the one who seeks after God lacks nothing. He does not hunger for the things of this world, because his soul is fed by something greater. His satisfaction does not depend on money, because his treasure is in heaven. He does not chase after fleeting pleasures, because his joy is found in the presence of the Lord. He does not live for the approval of man, because he knows that he is fully known and fully loved by the one whose judgment alone matters. David understood this when he said, "One thing have I asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life." He did not ask for riches. He did not ask for power. He did not ask for comfort. He asked for one thing: to be near to God. Because he knew that in God's presence there is fullness of joy. In God's presence there is peace that the world cannot take away. In God's presence there is satisfaction that no earthly pleasure can match. Look at the saints who have gone before us. They were mocked. They were rejected. They were imprisoned. They suffered loss. But they did not turn back, because their satisfaction was not in this world. They had found something greater. They had found Christ, and in him they had everything. This world will pass away. Its treasures will fade. Its pleasures will disappear. But God remains. And the one who seeks him above all else will never be empty. He will never hunger for what the world offers, because his soul will be filled with something far greater, the unshakable, unending, all-satisfying presence of God. Suffering is certain in this life. No one escapes it. The world is broken, and pain, loss, and sorrow are unavoidable. The question is not whether suffering will come, but how a man will stand in the midst of it. Some collapse under the weight of their trials. They are crushed by grief, consumed by despair, and shaken by hardship. They see no way forward, no purpose in their pain. But for the one who belongs to the Lord, suffering is never meaningless. He does not walk in hopelessness, for he knows that his God is good, even when the storm rages around him. There are those who have lost everything, yet they stand firm. Not because they are strong, but because they trust in the one who holds them. The world looks on and does not understand. How can a man rejoice when he has nothing? How can a woman sing praises when her heart is breaking? It is because they know the truth. God is faithful, and he is working, even in the darkest moments. The psalmist says, "I believe that I shall look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living." That is the confidence of a man who knows his God. He does not pretend that trials do not exist. He does not deny the pain. But he knows that the story is not over. The goodness of the Lord is not just a distant hope, it is a reality that will be seen. Some trust in their own wisdom when trials come. They try to fix their problems with their own strength, but they grow weary. Their strength is not enough. Others look to the world for comfort. They drown their sorrows in distractions, in pleasures, in empty promises, but none of it lasts. The pain returns. The emptiness remains. But the one who hopes in the Lord does not falter. His heart may be wounded, but his faith remains. He knows that the night will not last forever. He knows that though the enemy surrounds him, God has not forsaken him. He knows that though the battle rages, the victory belongs to the Lord. Look at Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, thrown into prison for a crime he did not commit. Year after year he suffered, but he did not lose hope. And when the time came, he saw the goodness of the Lord. He saw how God had been working all along, turning his suffering into salvation for many. Look at Job, who lost everything: his wealth, his health, his children. His friends accused him. His wife told him to curse God and die. Yet he held fast to his faith. And in the end, he saw the goodness of the Lord. Look at Paul and Silas, beaten and thrown into prison. They had every reason to despair. But what did they do? They sang, they worshiped, they rejoiced. And the prison doors were shaken open, and the jailer himself was brought to salvation. This is the hope of the believer. He does not deny his suffering, but he knows that God is at work. He knows that every trial has a purpose. He knows that one day, whether in this life or the next, he will see the goodness of the Lord. So he does not give in to despair. He does not lose heart. He does not let the weight of this world crush him, because his hope is in something greater. His hope is in the unchanging, unfailing, sovereign hand of God, and that hope will never be put to shame. Waiting is one of the hardest things a man can do. It goes against his nature. He wants results now, answers now, solutions now. He does not want to be still. He does not want to trust in what he cannot see. And so he takes matters into his own hands. He moves when he should wait. He acts when he should be still. And in doing so, he steps outside the will of God, choosing his own path instead of the one set before him. But the Lord commands his people to wait, not in weakness, not in passivity, but in faith. To wait on the Lord is to trust him completely, to believe that he is working even when nothing seems to change. It is to stand firm when the storm is raging, knowing that he is sovereign over every wave. It is to remain steadfast when the answers do not come, knowing that his timing is perfect. Many have failed in this. They could not wait, and they paid the price. Abraham was promised a son, yet in his impatience he took matters into his own hands. He listened to human wisdom instead of divine instruction, and the consequences followed. Saul was told to wait for the prophet Samuel, but he saw the enemy approaching, fear crept in, and he took it upon himself to offer the sacrifice. And in doing so he lost his kingdom. The price of impatience is great, but those who wait on the Lord will not be put to shame. They will see his faithfulness, they will see his power, they will see his deliverance. It may not come when they expect it. It may not come in the way they imagine, but it will come. David knew this well. He was anointed king, yet for years he lived as a fugitive, hunted like an animal. He could have taken matters into his own hands. Twice he had the chance to kill Saul and seize the throne, but he refused. He would not move ahead of God's timing. And in the end, the promise was fulfilled. The throne was his, not by his own striving, but by the hand of God. Job waited in suffering. He did not understand why he was afflicted. He did not know how long his pain would last. But he held fast to his faith, and in time he saw the goodness of the Lord. Paul waited in chains, longing to be free, longing to continue his mission. But in that waiting, God was at work. The gospel spread through the prison. The letters that would shape the church for generations were written. The waiting was not wasted. It never is. But waiting is not just about endurance. It is about strength. Be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. This is not a passive command. It is a call to action. To wait on the Lord is to trust him when everything in you wants to run. It is to hold firm to his promises when the world tells you to compromise. It is to believe when doubt whispers lies. The enemy will try to make you restless. He will tempt you to move before God commands. He will tell you that waiting is weakness, that nothing is happening, but do not believe him. The greatest victories come to those who trust in the timing of the Lord. The world moves in haste, but the people of God stand firm. They do not run ahead of him. They do not strive in their own strength. They wait. And when the time comes, when he speaks, when he moves, they rise up in his power, and they walk forward in victory. Do not put your trust in the fleeting things of this world. Do not build your life on the sand of human wisdom, wealth, or the approval of men. Set your foundation upon Christ, the rock that cannot be shaken. Fear has no hold on the one who stands in the presence of God. True satisfaction is not found in the empty promises of this world, but in seeking him above all else. Even in suffering, do not lose heart, for the goodness of the Lord will be seen. And when the answers do not come, when the path is unclear, wait on the Lord, stand firm. Be strong, take courage, he is faithful, he is near. He is your light and your salvation. Whom shall you fear? The world is filled with uncertainty, and men scramble to find something solid to stand on. They build their lives on wealth, on success, on relationships, on their own understanding, but every single one of these things will crumble in due time. Money will fade, reputations will be ruined, friends will betray, and human wisdom will fail. Yet in the midst of all of this, there is one who remains unmoved, unshaken, and unbreakable. The Lord is our light and our salvation, and if he is our foundation, there is no fear. Many trust in their own strength. They believe that if they work hard enough, if they plan well enough, if they think far ahead enough, they can control the outcomes of their lives. But what happens when the unexpected comes? What happens when the doctor calls with a diagnosis that no amount of effort can change? What happens when tragedy strikes, when betrayal cuts deep, when everything carefully built collapses in an instant? Where is their strength then? It is gone, because it was never real strength to begin with. Others place their hope in the approval of people. They think that as long as they are loved, as long as they are accepted, as long as they have the respect of others, they will be secure. But people are fickle. The same voices that cheer today will turn against you tomorrow. The same hands that lifted you up will push you down. If your foundation is the praise of men, then your foundation is nothing but sand. But the one who trusts in the Lord stands on solid ground. He does not change. He does not fail. He does not waver when the storm comes. His promises are not like the promises of man, frail, weak, and fleeting. When he says he is your refuge, he means it. When he says he will uphold you, he will. When he says he will never leave you nor forsake you, that is a certainty you can build your life upon. Look at the people of God throughout history. Were they stronger than others? Were they wiser? No. But they were held by the hand of the Almighty. Daniel stood before lions not because he was fearless, but because he trusted in God. David faced Goliath not because he was a mighty warrior, but because he knew his God was greater than any enemy. The apostles went to their deaths with joy, not because they had nothing to lose, but because they knew that Christ was everything. Their strength was not in themselves, it was in the unshakable, sovereign power of God. This is the strength you must have. If your life is built on anything else, it will fall. You may stand now, you may think yourself secure, but when the waves rise, when the winds blow, the foundation will be revealed. And if your foundation is not Christ, then you will have nothing left. But if your trust is in Him, you are unmovable. The storms will rage, but you will not be consumed. The enemy will attack, but you will not be defeated. Why? Because your strength is not your own, it is His, and He never fails. You said, expend keynote no 2 with 600 words, but not add any heading and closing sentence. ChatGPT said, fear grips the hearts of men because they do not know where to stand. They look around and see uncertainty, danger, and loss, and they are consumed by worry. They fear failure, they fear suffering, they fear rejection, they fear death. But for the one who is in Christ, fear has no rightful place. The Lord is our light and our salvation, whom shall we fear? The Lord is the stronghold of our lives, of whom shall we be afraid? Fear is the fruit of unbelief. It grows where trust in God is weak. When a man forgets who God is, he begins to tremble at the things of this world. He fears the opinions of others because he has lost sight of the only opinion that matters. He fears financial ruin because he does not trust in the God who provides. He fears sickness because he does not rest in the hands of the great physician. He fears death because he does not truly believe that Christ has conquered the grave. But when a man knows his God, fear is driven out. What can man do to him? What power does this world have over him? If the Lord is his salvation, then what loss can destroy him? He stands firm not because he is strong in himself, but because he is held by the one who is infinitely strong. Look at those who have gone before us. The 3 young men stood before Nebuchadnezzar facing the fiery furnace. The king threatened to throw them into the flames if they did not bow. But what was their response? Our God is able to deliver us, but even if He does not, we will not bow. They had no fear, because their confidence was in God, not in the outcome. They knew that the worst man could do was send them into the presence of their Lord. Look at Paul, standing in the face of death, declaring to live is Christ and to die is gain. What kind of man speaks this way? A man who has no fear of death because he knows the one who has defeated it. A man who does not tremble before men because he knows that his life is hidden in Christ. The believer who walks in faith has no reason to fear. The world may rage, the nations may rise, the enemies of God may surround him, but his soul is anchored. He does not trust in himself. He does not trust in his circumstances. He trusts in the unshakable, unchanging power of God. If God is for you, who can be against you? If He has called you His own, what can separate you from His love? Not tribulation, not distress, not persecution, not famine, not death, nothing. Fear has no hold on the one who is held by Christ, so why do you tremble? Why do you shrink back? The Lord Himself is your light. Darkness cannot overcome it. The Lord Himself is your salvation. No enemy can take it from you. The Lord Himself is your stronghold. No force in heaven or earth can break through. Walk in that truth. Stand firm in that confidence. Let the world see a people who do not waver, who do not bow, who do not tremble at the threats of man. Let them see a people who fear nothing because they fear God alone. You said expend keynote no 3 with 600 words, but not add any heading and closing sentence. ChatGPT said, man was made to seek something beyond himself. Every day he searches for meaning, for fulfillment, for something that will satisfy the hunger deep within his soul. He turns to the things of this world, believing that if he can just gain more success, more wealth, more pleasure, more recognition, he will finally find peace. But it is all a deception. The world promises satisfaction, but it cannot deliver. It lures men with the promise of joy, but it only leaves them empty, exhausted, and broken. The heart that seeks after wealth will never have enough. The man who loves money will always want more. He will spend his life chasing riches, thinking that one more promotion, one more investment, one more deal will give him the security he longs for. But it will never be enough. He will gather wealth, and then he will fear losing it. He will build his empire, and then he will be anxious about its fall. He will look back on his life and realize that he has spent his years storing up treasures that will be taken from him in an instant. The man who seeks after pleasure will find the same disappointment. He will indulge in every desire, thinking that if he can just experience enough, he will finally be satisfied. He will chase after entertainment, after lust, after comfort, but every pleasure will fade. The excitement will turn to emptiness. The things that once thrilled him will become dull. And so he will go looking for more, and more, and more, only to find himself exhausted, drained, and enslaved to his own desires. The approval of man is no different. How many have built their lives upon the opinions of others, hoping that if they are admired, respected, and loved, they will find peace? But people are fickle. They will praise you one day and condemn you the next. They will lift you up when it serves them and cast you aside when they no longer have use for you. To seek fulfillment in the approval of men is to build a house on shifting sand. But the one who seeks after God lacks nothing. He does not hunger for the things of this world because his soul is fed by something greater. His satisfaction does not depend on money because his treasure is in heaven. He does not chase after fleeting pleasures because his joy is found in the presence of the Lord. He does not live for the approval of man, because he knows that he is fully known and fully loved by the one whose judgment alone matters. David understood this when he said, "One thing have I asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life." He did not ask for riches. He did not ask for power. He did not ask for comfort. He asked for one thing: to be near to God, because he knew that in God's presence there is fullness of joy. In God's presence there is peace that the world cannot take away. In God's presence there is satisfaction that no earthly pleasure can match. Look at the saints who have gone before us. They were mocked. They were imprisoned. They suffered loss. But they did not turn back because their satisfaction was not in this world. They had found something greater. They had found Christ, and in him they had everything. This world will pass away. Its treasures will fade. Its pleasures will disappear. But God remains. And the one who seeks him above all else will never be empty. He will never hunger for what the world offers, because his soul will be filled with something far greater, the unshakable, unending, all-satisfying presence of God. You